Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we've got ourselves a track by an act named VyN, or Voices You Need, their song titled We Could Be. And if we switch over to here, this band, VyN, is a two-piece. We have got Des on lead vocals, as well as John on the instruments, as well as the mix and mastering, so the studio side of things. And apparently Voices You Need is a pro-mental health band that aims to bring back the style and aura of 90s and 2000s. So looking forward to checking out more. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Get that art up on the screen there. We Could Be. Let's do it.
I see the fears that's inside. I see the tears through your eyes. I see the great place to put all this pain aside.
Lyrics. Nice.
I can control all your thoughts, all your stumbling faults, but I can promise that I'll never leave you behind. You say you'll talk, but I don't know. Afraid of putting on a show. Oh, I don't really know. But we could be happy if only you could trust me. For all the wrongs and imperfections you'll find, even if they're all over now, we could be crazy for each other if you let me. If for a moment you free your mind, take a chance and you'll love what you'll find. You say you'll talk, but I don't know. Afraid of putting on a show. Oh,
Good panning of those
I
tones.
don't really know, but we could be happy if only you could trust me. For all the wrongs and imperfections you'll find, even if they're all over now, we could be crazy for each other if you let me. If for a moment you free your mind, take a chance and you'll love what you'll find.
Nice pickup with the drums.
Every time you left me wondering why, no matter how hard I try, you deny me.
Great echo on the vocals as well.
Every time you left
Harmonies.
me wondering why, no matter how hard I try, you deny me. Happy if only you could trust me. For all the wrongs and imperfections you'll find, even if they're all over now, we could be crazy for each other if you let me. If for a moment you free your mind, take a chance and you'll love what you'll find. Oh, oh, never see your face again. This is how it ends.
Ooh, nice tail on the vocals there as well. Never see your face again, this is how it ends. I feel like this is pretty relatable stuff. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named VyN, or Voices You Need, titled We Could Be. In this section, I'm going to provide an overall song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But what do we think this track is about? So we've got the lyrics here for We Could Be. I see the fears that are inside, I see the tears through your eyes. So clearly they're going through some trials and tribulations and difficulties. I think this track effectively comes to a point where we're discussing how we wish we could be more open with each other if we allowed ourselves to explore the possibility of that occurring. I can promise that I'll never leave you behind. You say you'll talk about, I don't know, afraid of putting on a show. So they're kind of afraid of showing some vulnerability there. We could be happy if only you could trust me. So there's like a lack of trust that's sort of communicated throughout this, that we wish we could overcome, if we could free our mind and, you know, take a chance and you'll love what you find. And I kind of adore that. I think that that is something that people be able to kind of go behind, this kind of interpersonal back and forth, the kind of knowing when to sort of show things and when to not, and maybe not being aware of how much we're really kind of choking ourselves by not being open enough with people. And then we kind of iterate on that, never see your face again, this is how it ends. So it kind of seems to me that this is a track about, you know, someone looking at another. It's like it is a tragedy, you know, it's a sadness that they feel that just things weren't able to work out. And I think that the way that we sing, the vocalist, Des has this great sort of technique. They're very comfortable in their head and chest voice, you know. They have these wonderful legato passages and these runs and tails, especially that kind of bluesy part at the end of the piece, which is really nice. We explored harmonies there, sort of surrounding ourselves in the stereo field and making ourselves a bit bigger in some of those parts, including the interlude or middle eight coming back into the last chorus. And most importantly, I think we sung in a way which is very personable, very sort of approachable. We weren't trying to sing at the person we were discussing this stuff about. We were trying to sort of reach out to them. It was quite gentle and caring and loving, and I really appreciate that. I think that it's not just needing to be able to sing well and hit the notes cleanly and stuff like that, you know, with a bit of vibrato and kind of also mixing in some extra singing of some like more sort of like melodic parts, like the whoa, whoa at the end, but it's also being able to just kind of like sell a sense of authenticity with it, which I appreciate. I think that as well, the track at 3 minutes 19 is really well fleshed out. I really appreciate a lot of what John is doing on those instruments there. We had a mixture of guitar, bass, drums, and I think other ear candy-ish bits. We had the kind of banjos and plucked elements with the vinyl filter at the start. There are a bit of kind of crackle to sort of stimulate that this is maybe a tale as old as time, coming from like a more kind of nostalgic place potentially. I do like the fact that the accordion that you have there, it flutters with a really pretty melody that kind of emulates a lot, or at least some of what we're going to explore later on the microphones. There's a nice kind of connection between those parts. And then when we get into the crux of the beat around the 15-18 second mark, there we've got this kind of driving groove on the hi-hat, kicks and snares pushing forward and having nice sort of compelling eighth note pattern there, with the chugged power chords of the guitars on either side there being nice and sort of resolute in that mid range. The vocals kind of decorated the upper range. But I do like the fact that we didn't just do power chords on the guitars, we also did some sort of major minor intervals there and played with different chord shapes, and it was just a nice sort of, again, pop punk aesthetic of the mid 2000s that we presented there. And we had sort of tom fills, such as how we went into the 45-second mark there. It did kind of make me nostalgic for how music was when I was a teenager. I dig that. And I think that the octave chords that we had in the chorus section alongside the vocals were just a nice sort of like accompaniment to those. The bass line underneath kind of being relatively explorative. There was some interesting octave parts and other elements throughout the piece there that we didn't just play the root notes of those chords. We showed not just a loyalty to the fundamentals of rhythm, but we also allowed it to explore the low mids. We knew how to be catchy and sort of poppy sounding there and to kind of cover the basics there, but we also knew to extend when required. I also, to be clear, I loved that guitar solo that we had. Like, it's incredibly kind of like technical, but like playing, but like it's also really clean. Like that part there is really tricky to play, but we nailed it. And I like the fact that the drums kind of came up in terms of speed with that, and they didn't like leave them behind. To have that big kind of build there and that double time-ish kind of thing going, to then go into that middle eight, which is such a great sort of contrast there as well, dynamically, as well as just in general experience or in intensity of the piece. And as we go into that last part there with the double kicks and the gallops and stuff like that of the chorus, it's just a fantastic return to form. We were very articulate on the drums. The guitars perform those main sort of chordal, sort of like lead guitarist functions there. I think we also maybe had some strings or some other sort of like neoclassical guitar parts around the 3-minute mark in the outro, which is kind of beautiful. And I think that was just a smart move as well, because it was the big finish and we wanted to kind of have a reach out into that upper level there. We wanted something different there to kind of cleanse the palette a little bit. So honestly, like, just great sort of like structuring there, seamless transitions between parts. No complaints on my point. Nice to have alternate leads there, as well as different chord progressions and bass lines and a mixture of, again, the no drums or the normal time or the double time, maybe even some half time if I didn't miss it. Thematically, it is a major sounding one, but it's kind of bittersweet. It's almost like we appreciate that there was the possibility of there being good times, but we're also sad for the fact that they didn't work out in the end for various various reasons. And I think that that's a mature way to approach it. I think that the chord progressions for the complexity without going into extensions of some of those kind of guitar parts was great. I also think a lot of it was due to like the kind of innate texture and tone of the different elements and how they coalesced and grew and kind of came down and stuff like that, such as the interlude being a bit more of a kind of a delicate, tender moment there, with other parts being a lot more sort of bombastic because you really sort of call out to this person. So I think a lot of what really sold this track, outside of the really kind of catchy chord progression there, it's one I'm familiar with the bass line kind of following on with it. It's just that you had the poppy elements, but then you had the push of the distortion. And then you had a whole lot of other fun ideas that kind of coalesced and made a really sort of memorable first impression. Studio recording, mixing, and mastering, though, was good. I'm wondering with the guitars whether they could have been a little bit wider in the mix. They just kind of seem like they're kind of in the 50% range as opposed to the 100. I'm wondering how we sort of double track that. But aside from that, it's just a very, very sort of minor thing. I thought the vocals came through really cleanly in the mix. I did really sort of like how the drums were panned. Some interesting tone positioning on the sides there, as well as the vocal harmonies. Things were nicely niched in the frequency spectrum, though, with resonant frequencies, and the music did surround you in the headphones for the most part there. There was dynamic range. Things weren't the same perceived loudness the entire time, but aside chaining with the kicks, bus compression limiting is handled, and the vocals were not overproduced, where you can just clearly sing, which is great. So I think that was pretty well handled for the most part, and leveling was pretty good for the most part. Outside of the guitar panning part, I've got no real applicable constructive critique, and that's just a subjective thing. I liked how the lead guitar was presented in the mix. And from a final general listener's perspective, I think that there is merit in both exploring this kind of music and going back to the 90s and 2000s for influence, whilst also, again, making music that is trying to encourage people to open up and sort of take, like understand themselves better and their mental health stuff and everything like that. I really appreciate what Voices You Need do, sincerely. I wish him all the best in luck in future with the musical endeavors. Because thank you for watching my review of this track from VyN, or Voices You Need, titled We Could Be. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via the various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need the help more than ever with the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.